We chose to work with Christchurch Primary School on this project because it's the closest school to the Heritage Action Zone. It's literally about 100 metres away. And what we did, we tasked the pupils with looking at social conditions in North Shields at the turn of the 20th century and how they impacted on petty crime in the area at that time. To make it more relatable to the children, we used the case study of a little boy about their age who lived in North Shields, and he was convicted of stealing from his employer. The children also got to hear from two experts from Northumbria University, one a criminologist, the other a forensic anthropologist, and they explained how techniques for identifying both victims and suspects had changed over the years. The Heritage Action Zone is a perfect example of how wealth and poverty are separated by just a couple of streets, and where you're actually born can have a massive impact on your life chances.
Everybody has a story to tell. The story that we've been particularly focusing on today is the story of George Sayer, who was born and raised in North Shields and who, because he was very poor, ended up stealing in order to get some money to buy food for him and his family. And what they've been doing is thinking about how his life and what happened to him when he stole was very different from what our lives are like today and what would happen to children today if they were going to be punished for doing something that was wrong.
We educate you as to what these are. I think what is needed is a short, sharp and stinging lesson delivered by Mr. Birch.
The story is so important because for all of the children, we want them to understand that life is complicated and that things that we have now that are designed to help us haven't always been there. Things like free education and health and access to things that we take for granted.
So Sue read us a story on George Sayers. Then we done what we can fix about his life and what his wishes would be.
I don't think the punishment back then was quite reasonable. I think it was quite horrible and brutal. I don't think he deserved to be burnt. I think some other punishment is more suitable.
So today we've been learning a little bit about crime and about policing in North Shields in the Edwardian period. So the kids have been learning about where the police stations and the police boxes were in North Shields, and we've been thinking about how people went and got help from the police when they saw a crime happening or they needed a little bit of help.
We've been looking at where to place policemen along the Fish Quay and around North Shields, and we did mugshots about people who've committed crimes and we made up a story about them.
My favourite part of today was almost being a detective and trying to figure out who had stolen the skirts and other clothes from the shop. So it started off with us getting an ink pad and placing our fingerprints in our books to see what they looked like and whether they were curls, whirls or loops. We gathered all the suspects and got the fingerprints on a piece of paper. Keith gave us the fingerprint that was left at the shop.
Because there was a little bit of paper with what the fingerprint looked like, and once we got to Dave we found out that it was him because the fingerprint looked exactly the same.
One of the things that we did was to take mugshots of all the children who took part. They held up a little board with their name on and with the pretend crime that they'd done, and the children all now have a 5 centimetre by 7.5 centimetre mugshot of themselves. It's really nice to do projects like this. It helps children think about the places that they live and what happened in times gone by. They can start to see that lives for children and for adults in the past were sometimes not so different from their own lives.
My name's Dr. Patrick Randolph-Quinney. I'm a forensic anthropologist from Northumbria University. So I lead the forensic science research group there. So what we're basically covering is identity. So showing them how people like me can work with the skeleton, how we can work with the remains of somebody who's dead, but also with living, to identify somebody from all the different parts of their body, from the skin, the face, right down to the skeleton. We're going to basically incorporate something called biometry, so biometrics. So we're going to be taking photographs of the face. I will turn those into computerized landmarks, so we can look at the differences between boys and girls. We can help possibly even separate them out as individuals. And then we're going to do some three-dimensional modelling, so some photogrammetry, to show them how we reconstruct the face in 3 dimensions.
Today we've been learning about bones and with the forensic anthropologists.
Yes, they did bring in a skeleton and we learnt about all that's the difference of male and female, what's different about it. Say DNA's different, feet prints, handprints, fingerprints. So how to tell if the skulls are the bones are the woman or the male. It looked like a female, but then we learnt that it was actually a male skeleton. The chin was more pointy, the eye holes were more rectangular. The tailbone is more pointy and curved. Instead for the female, it's more flat on it.
So North Shields Heritage Action Zone is a 5-year project to invest in the historic environment of North Shields. It's Historic England and North Tyneside Council, and it covers kind of the new town, the Georgian and Victorian new town of North Shields, so Northumberland Square and Howard Street. And today we've got the children out to come and have a look at the buildings here, talk a bit about the history when they were first built, when the garden was first laid out, and then we're also looking at some of the old maps which plot what some of the crimes that happened here, where they happened, and then also we're going to have a look at the building where the Magistrates Court and the police station was, so the children can really understand the stuff that they've been learning in the classroom from the archive sources and actually where it happened on the ground.
So today we visited the Heritage Action Zone and we learnt about when buildings were built, who owned the buildings, and a man built the buildings for some richer people who worked at the industry before, and they owned Northumberland Square as their own little private garden.
I enjoyed how we looked at the background history around the buildings because I live very close by, and it was just interesting to learn more about where I live.
Working with the heritologists has been absolutely fantastic. The children have been so enthusiastic about all of their learning. It's been really important for the children to learn about, I think, because a lot of our children and their families have always lived in North Shields, and for the children who've moved to North Shields as well, I think it's really important to learn how special the area is and have that real appreciation for their heritage and history and what makes our area unique. The project has really broadened their understanding of local heritage, and what's been so inspiring to see is how the children have now are now going away and doing their own research and being aware of what is out there and how much more they can take this learning forward.